Hi, I'm John Gain, photographer, videographer, and editor. And if you're watching this course, that means you want to create the perfect portrait photo. If you want to take your raw, freshly shot image and transform it into a Vogue magazine-worthy photo, this is the right class for you. In this course, you will learn how to remove imperfections like pimples, wrinkles, or moles, how to remove eye bags, how to brighten and whiten teeth, how to smoothen the skin and create the perfect creamy texture that any photographer dreams of, and finally, how to add shine and glamour to your photo. This course is short, quick, and to the point. We're not going to get into complicated technical terms, but feel free to rewatch any parts and pause whenever you need. Alternatively, I am here for you and I'm always happy to answer any of your questions. For the class project, you will take your own portrait photo or ones that I will upload for you and edit them using the methods you learned and post them to see a before and after. So let's get to work and let's create some brilliant photos worthy of a magazine cover. The first lesson in this course is how to remove imperfections. Getting rid of pimples, spots, and wrinkles is super simple and is the first thing you should do when modifying a portrait. Before tackling texture modifications and texture improvement, you should get rid of imperfections. This is done super easily. You go to the left side of the toolbar and you select the spot healing brush. As you can see, Photoshop shows here a tutorial and you can see that this is exactly what we want. Select the brush size. You have to have an appropriately sized brush, just as big as the spot, but it has to include the redness and the inflamed area as well. So now let's click on the spot, and as you can see, it's magically gone. You can repeat the process for every single spot, and Photoshop will do a great job. Do not rush this. Do not try to select the whole area because then Photoshop is not going to do the best job it can. So select every spot manually. It's super quick. Super simple, just a few clicks, just a few seconds, and as you can see, we are done. The face looks perfect, and it took us only 2 minutes. Now let's move on to a different picture. As you can see, the spots here are already masked with makeup. So, select an appropriately sized brush, click on the spots, and they're magically gone, just as before. But the reason why I chose this is not because of the spots, but because of this masking tape. A lot of photographers and models use masking tape to stretch the skin. And we want to get rid of that tape in post-production. Tip: do not use the spot healing brush. You can, it's going to be super easy, but it might not do a good job. As you can see, this doesn't look natural. So, Control or Command Z. And now we're going to select this area. Use the polygonal lasso tool because this is a square or rectangular object. This is super quick, super simple. And now right click and we have two options that are closely related. We can click Fill, select Content Aware, and click OK. This did a very good job, but it's still not perfect, and we do not have room for adjustment. So again, Control or Command, if you're on a Mac, Z, to go back, and now we're going to click Content Aware Fill. Content Aware Fill does a much better job, and you have control over which areas are selected. So Photoshop is going to sample from the green areas. We do not want Photoshop to sample from the eyes, so we deselect the eyes. And as you can see, this is going to adjust in real time. This is perfect now. So we click OK, and Photoshop has added that to our photo. So look at that. Now you know how to remove imperfections and how to remove bigger objects like that sticky tape that we had on the forehead of this beautiful model. So let's get to the next step. So, you want to know how to whiten and brighten the teeth of your model. This is super easy as well. we go to this button over here, the adjustment layer button, click on hue and saturation, and as you can see, and as the name suggests, this modifies the hue, it modifies the saturation, and the brightness of the photo. We want to apply that only to our teeth, not to our model. So the thing you're going to do is click here on yellows, and it's selected a part of the image, but we do not know what part. So in order to have a better view, we are going to move this right over here and increase the saturation to the maximum possible. As you can see now, Photoshop is modifying the orange parts. What we have to do is minimize this area over here, and now move it so that only our teeth are going to be selected, not our gums. So the gums and the lips are not selected. The face is selected, but that is not an issue. We can fix that very, very easily. What we try to do is have the teeth selected and not the gums, which is exactly what's happening here. We can move that around a bit just so we can make it perfect, just like that. I would say that is very, very good. Now you have to reset the values that you have just modified. And now we can go ahead and decrease the saturation, increase the brightness. As you can see, the teeth look perfect. However, it modified the face as well, and we do not want that, do we? So what we have to do is go to this mask that is automatically created, click invert, and now nothing is modified. Click on B for brush, or access the brush menu right over here, and create an appropriately sized brush. This, by chance, is the perfect size. We select the white color over here, and now we can paint on our model with the mask that we have created. So we're just going to paint on the teeth area, just like that. And as you can see, they're white, they're bright, they're exactly as we want them to be. If this is too much, you can always decrease the opacity of that mask, and you can bring them to a more yellow, more natural color. But this is how to whiten and brighten your model's teeth. Super simple, right? So, let's remove the eye bags from the photo. Previously, we used the spot healing brush, but if we use it again, Photoshop does a good job, but this has spots, blocks, and it doesn't look good, and it doesn't look natural, certainly. So, we can right-click on the spot healing brush and click the patch tool. The patch tool is a more manual version of the same tool, but keep in mind, a manual offers you more control, which is exactly what a photo editor wants. So select the eye bags just like so, all the way over here. And now we can simply click and drag just like so. Control or Command D to deselect. And you can see Photoshop did a much better job. If you think that Photoshop missed some spots, you can go ahead and select them again and modify the diffusion. The diffusion is how soft the edges of this modification are going to be. If we click a diffusion of 1, the edges are going to be super rough. If we click the maximum, the diffusion is going to be much softer, and it's exactly what we want. So now we drag down, and as you can see, the edges are super soft, and it's much better than before. So now we removed the eye bags from the model's face. Let's try a different example, because I'm going to try and show you something different. This model has very pronounced and accentuated eye bags. We could remove them all, but then that would not be natural. It wouldn't be the same person anymore. Tip: Keep in mind that Photoshop is a very powerful tool where you can modify anything. Moderation is key. Keeping a portrait natural, keeping the face of your model realistic is key. So let's try and do that. We have to duplicate this image either by right-clicking on the image and clicking duplicate, or clicking Control or Command if you're on a Mac, J. And now we duplicated a layer. We use the exact same process of selecting the area and then dragging it down exactly like we did previously. Do not go too far into the bottom of the photo, just like that. Photoshop did an amazing job, probably even better than the first time. We have to select this area again because it's a bit rough, in my opinion. We increase the diffusion to the maximum, which is 7. And then we try and fix that area, and now it looks perfect. But again, this is not the same model anymore because we did heavy modification on the model. Let's try and fix this wrinkly area as well. And then I'm going to show you what I was talking about. We drag it down just as before. And even though this doesn't look perfect, it doesn't have to, because right now we're going to click on opacity and decrease the opacity. Now, if you click the opacity of 0, this is just the photo from the beginning. If you click the opacity at 100, this is just a modified photo. We have to find the sweet spot, a good in-between that shows some wrinkles and some eye bags and keeps the portrait natural, keeps the model's face realistic just as it is in real life. This is great. Now you know how to completely remove eye bags, just like we did in here, and how to make them a bit softer, but still keep the realism of your model. Let's go to the next part. So now, let's get to the most important part of this course, how to smoothen the skin and make it creamy and worthy of a magazine cover. This is by far one of the hardest parts of this course, so you should pay attention and we're going to move a bit slower. The first thing we need to do is duplicate this layer. You can either do that by right-clicking and clicking on duplicate, or Control or Command if you're on a Mac, J. First step is done. Then Control or Command I in order to inverse the photo. Then click on blend modes and go to vivid light right over here. This doesn't look good yet, but just wait. Then we go to filter up top and we go to other and high pass. Now the level of high pass you choose depends on the photo. This is just done by training. You have to do it by trial and error depending on the lighting, depending on the skin tone, depending on the hardness of the face, so on and so forth. For this particular photo, I would say somewhere around 17 to 30 would work great. We just need to have a smooth texture of the skin without too many of those artifacts. I think a 17, maybe a 20 is the perfect level for this particular photo. You should start with 20 and then increase or decrease depending on how smooth the skin you want to have. Then you click OK, and this is done for now. Now we have just a few more steps, so hang on. We go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And now, the higher we have the value, then the photo is unchanged and it's exactly the photo that we had when we started. The lower we go with the value, then we have just a high path filter, and this is not good either. So now we just increase this until the face has an appropriate smoothness while still keeping the texture of the skin. This just depends on personal preference and how much you want to edit the photo. I think a 1 or maybe a bit higher, a 1.3 is perfect for this photo. Let's go a bit down, a 1.2. This is perfect. It's smooth, but still keeps the texture of the skin. But as you can see, everything is smooth, including the hair, the eyes, the lips. This is not what we want, of course. So then we want to create a mask. If we create a mask right now, then by using a brush and the black color, we can remove the smoothness. But this is counterproductive. So what we have to do is click Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and then click the mask option. And now the mask is negative. It's a negative mask. So now with the brush tool and with white this time, we can paint on the model's face. This is much better, right? So let's increase the size a bit and let's start painting on the model's face. As you can see, the skin is getting smooth and beautiful, and it's exactly what we wanted to happen. You can hit those particular areas. We could modify here as well. So now you just paint until the model has the perfect texture that you wish for. Let's decrease the brush size a bit. Let's paint here around the chin as well. Don't get too close to the lips. If you get too close to the lips or other objects, then you get this artifact over here, and this is not good. Control or Command Z to undo, and now continue painting. So we can paint, but keep some texture, keep some areas natural. For example, here around the nose, we're not going to modify anything because that's a tricky spot, and that's a spot that a human eye would recognize it has been modified. So keep that in mind. We can go around the border of the face as well. Decrease the brush size a bit. And let's go around the nose as well. Just like that. This is perfect. This is beautiful. And now the model's face is super smooth. It's much better than before. And now, if we think this is too much, for example, we can go over the opacity and just decrease the opacity a bit to a level we feel is natural. As you can see, the model's face still has texture, but now it is smoother than before. It's not a fake filter like you see on Instagram or Snapchat. This is done manually with a lot of control. If we deselect this layer, you can see the before and after is massive. Now let's try a different photo. We can switch to this panel over here, and as you can see, we return to the photo that we modified earlier. Let's try to do the same thing for this model, just for practice. Follow me closely so you can learn the steps. The first thing that we want to do is duplicate the layer. Again, right click and click duplicate, or Command or Control J. Good. Control or Command I to inverse. Go to blend modes and hit vivid light. Go to filter, other, high pass. Hit the level that you want, click on the level that you want. For this photo, I think maybe a 17 is perfect. We click OK. Then again to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And now we blur this as much as we want in order to have a smooth texture. For this particular image, I would think we have to increase it a bit more because we still don't have texture around the forehead. I think a 1.5 is perfect. Let's do the mask now. Do you remember how we do it? We click Alt or Option on a Mac and click the mask button. This is a negative mask. Now we select the brush, we increase the size a bit, and now we start painting on the model's face, just like we did previously. Again, the model's face is starting to be smoother, starting to be better. We can decrease the size a bit and go around the chin as well, just like that. This is beautiful. But keep in mind that before you start smoothing the skin, you have to remove the imperfections. If you do not remove the imperfections, you are going to smoothen them as well, and your photo is going to look artificial. This is not what we want to do with our photo. Now minimize the brush a bit and go around the nose as well. Just like that. Hit the other cheek. This is great. Just touch a bit around the nose, though I would suggest not to go into that because it's a difficult area, it's a tricky area. Just a bit around the eyes as well. We can zoom out a bit so we can see the results. And as you can see, the face is much smoother than before. We can decrease the opacity a bit to maybe a 90% just so we can have it a bit smoother. And when we hide the mask, you can see that we have made the skin smooth, we have made it perfect. This is how you make that creamy texture of the face that's worthy of any magazine cover. So now, the final step of this course is how to add brightness, glamour, and shine to your portrait, and complete this process with the cherry on top. This is going to look great. Let's see how it's done. This is super quick, super great. Go to curves, take the middle of this curve and drag it up. Drag it up just until this curve looks like that, and try not to make it sharp, just like it is now. Make it curvy and great, just like that, so it's tangent in this point. This is great. Now, after we do that, we double click on this layer, and now we have the layer style menu popping up. We are going to work with the underlying layer. This is our focus point. We drag this point a bit to the right, like that. We drag this point to the left. And now we click Alt or Option on a Mac to split those two in half. You might not see a difference, but just trust me. Now we can split them up and move them independently, and as you can see, the edges are going to be way smoother, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Let's try and do that for the right tab as well. Drag it a bit to the right, drag it a bit to the left, and it's very smooth, just as you can see. Now we are done. We click OK. We click this mask option right over here, and we click invert, just like we did in some previous processes as well. We take the brush tool with white, we make it a bit bigger and as soft as possible, and now we start painting on the model. We try to paint only on the face and not on the hair, because that's not what we're trying to do. So we're trying to paint only on the face. Just like that. That is great. Just like that. Now we go ahead and decrease the opacity. This is beautiful. And now if we turn it off, you can see there is a world of difference. Just like in real life, when you see models applying makeup and applying highlights and shadows, this is exactly what we did in Photoshop. We applied highlights to the model's face, and this adds depth, complexity, shine, and glamour. Look at that. Let's show a before and after. This is truly incredible. With this, we completed our course, and now you know how to brighten and whiten teeth, how to smoothen face, how to remove imperfections and eye bags, and finally, how to add shine to your photo in order to make it look like $1 million. I hope this was helpful, and if you want to learn more, check out my description and check out my other courses that are key, and they're bound to help you learn Photoshop to a next level. Hope to see you soon. Take care and happy Photoshopping.